Chapter 286, The Challenger. Is this kid the Brian you've been telling me about? One of the three dark mantle heavyweights Miz asked elegantly as he observed Han Shao in the garden house with amusement. That's him. He's truly done a lot of big things during this short span of time. His strength also seems to be unfathomable. However, I haven't really seen it for myself. Let us use this opportunity to see his real strength, the remote-looking Candide said to Amiz. Amiz only looked to be around 30-some years old. He wore a fitting white robe without any other ornaments, which gave him a clean and pure look. This elevated his extraordinary handsomeness even more. In addition, there was an attractive, graceful charm about him. However, to the nobles of the Lancelot Empire, Amiz's ever-elegant smile and graceful handsomeness was shrouded by a shadow of death. A noble was simply out of luck if they were targeted by him. At the bare minimum, they would be thrown in jail after their property was seized, and at worst instant execution. Of the three heavyweights of the Dark Mantle, Cecilia usually carried out activities in foreign lands. Candide was responsible for gathering domestic intel and investigating other empires' assassins. As for Amiz, he was in charge of monitoring and intimidating the dignitaries. The three of them coordinated with each other very well. Candide and Cecilia rarely showed their faces and never posed any threat to the Empire's nobles, so Amiz was the one that most of them were familiar with and also feared the most. There wasn't an aristocrat that wasn't afraid of him. You should know very well of Leah Kane's strength. Besides, he has a relationship with the first Prince Charles. If this boy can't win against Leah Kane, I'm afraid he won't be able to leave this place alive. Amiz squinted to look at the proudly standing Han Shao in the garden house and said to Candide, Hey, that's hard to say. Ferguson was a light grand magus like you, and yet he still died by Brian's hand. From what I know, Ferguson's reputation isn't any less than Leah Kane's. If he could kill a light grand magus, he should be able to kill Leah Kane all the same. Although Candide wasn't so optimistic about Han Shao privately, he still had to put up a front before Amiz. After all, Han Shao had been promoted by him. Amiz smiled elegantly and nodded slightly before sitting down leisurely on a stone bench above a high platform. He took out a set of fine tea accoutrements and began to enjoy it. Han Shao was currently quite worried in the garden house. Through the three Demons' observation, he found Emily, Phoebe and Fanny outside. Even though they weren't in the same spot, he knew they'd definitely rushed to him once he left the garden house. Han Shao wasn't too worried about Emily. After all, she was much more open in the matter of romance. She might feel a bit unhappy, but the possibility of her causing a scene was the lowest. However, that couldn't be said for Phoebe and Fanny. They both knew nothing about his current situation. Once these two met, they'd raise a storm without a doubt. As Han Shao wallowed in anxiety from this situation, the great swordmaster Leah Kane walked out to the center of the garden house. He carried a broadsword, his face cold and the look in his eyes brutal as he swept a glance at Han Shao. Leah Kane sneered, Little guy, are you that Brian? That's me. You must know everything already, so there's no need for nonsense. The two of us will fight it out on this spacious lawn and settle everything in one go. Does that sound alright? Han Shao immediately threw all of his worries to the wind upon seeing Leah Kane appear. He looked traply at the latter and replied casually, That works. I will teach you a good lesson. Leah Kane laughed coldly. He swept a glance around the crowd outside of the garden house and suddenly proposed an idea. If you don't mind, can we allow the outside people to come in and watch the fight? Han Shao wrinkled his brows and thought for a bit before saying, I don't mind myself, but there are too many people outside. I'm afraid it isn't very appropriate to allow all of them in here. Then just let the nobles in. That shouldn't be a problem. This proposal was due to Charles' prior reminder, otherwise Leah himself didn't care about any of this. Han Shao was afraid of some unexpected stormy situations if the three women were to meet, so that's why he'd been hesitant. Now that he heard Leah Kane's words, he remembered that both Fanny and Phoebe didn't have noble titles. He instantly nodded and said, Then so be it. Upon hearing the approval, Leah Kane waved his arm towards the guards standing in the distance. The guards seemed to have known beforehand, as he shouted, Those with a noble title in the Empire can come inside to watch. Civilians will not be allowed entry. The nobles, wandering outside one by one, elegantly walked in with their noses up. The civilians in the surroundings had no opposition to this. The nobility held certain privileges on the profound continent. The people here all understood and were used to this, so they didn't feel surprised the nobles walked in with their followers. Phoebe and Lawrence also took this opportunity to come in as a couple. Phoebe suddenly felt that someone was watching her the moment she walked inside. She lifted her head to notice Emily's surprised look. Emily was wearing a purple dress, her skin delicate like white jade as she stood with old Mr. Hahn's group. She looked beautiful with an inviolable noble air and had none of the melancholy that could usually be seen from a widow. She was too dazzling for words. Damn that Brian. This Emily must have used that magical pill too. Does he have some relationship with Emily? Phoebe immediately recognized that it was the effect of the rebirth pill with just one glance at Emily's delicate pure white cheeks. On the other hand, Phoebe's eyes were filled with surprise as she looked at Emily. The two women only needed a single glance at each other to understand the matter. Hey, Brian, you'll definitely win. Lawrence was very optimistic as he cheered for Han Shao from afar. Humphrey want to win with his strength? Dream on. Not far from Lawrence, first Prince Charles said disdainfully. The bunch of nobles behind him immediately chimed in to lick his boots, taking turns to analyze the reasons Han Shao would lose. Their goal was to gain some goodwill from Charles. There was a grassy lawn as big as a football field in the middle of the garden house. Han Shao and Leah Kane were currently standing in the center of this lawn. The Lancelot Empire's nobles sat in the surroundings. They brought their own highly skilled guards and kept their distance so they didn't need to worry about their safety. Leah Kane's facial expression was sternly cold and he didn't care much for Han Shao. When he saw the nobles came in, his eyes moved to Charles. The chattering first prince slightly nodded in response to Leah Kane's gaze, indicating that he could start making a move. Only now did Leah Kane look at Han Shao again as he gripped his broadsword. His voice resounded coldly, "Little guy ready to die?" Taking in a deep breath, Han Shao cleared all distractions from his mind. His face instantly became cold and ruthless. The arrogance in his voice wasn't any less. "Mr. Leah Kane, before this fight let me remind you that I'm also an archmage necromancer in addition to being a martial artist. I hope you'll be careful." "Humphrey, nothing but a useless archmage necromancer, wasting your power to train that kind of useless magic. I can already imagine how much skill you have. I really don't understand what kind of garbage that great sword master that you killed was. He couldn't even win against a brat like you who doesn't focus on training martial arts. It seems like your Lancelot Empire doesn't have a single truly strong expert." Leah Kane was truly too cocky. He had offended every noble around him with just a few sentences. Even the nobles betting on his victory revealed angry expressions. "Fool, even if you win, don't even dream of gaining a foothold in this Lancelot Empire anymore. No wonder you had to flee from the Brood Alliance. With your hot temper alone you should have long since been killed if it weren't for your power." First Prince Charles cursed non-stop in his heart as he looked at the arrogant Leah Kane. He secretly made up his mind to absolutely not reveal his relationship with Leah Kane even if the latter managed to kill Han Shao. He needed to prevent this from impacting the nobles' opinions of him. "Mr. Leah Kane, I hope you won't let me down." Han Shao's mind moved with a thought and the Demon Slayer edge appeared in his right hand. The 2-meter-long edge didn't look very sharp. The body of the weapon was an unusual dark brown. Basically, the Demon Slayer edge didn't look at all prominent without being injected with magical yuan. "Little guy, since you dared to find me, I'm sure you must be well prepared. Today I'll let you know the true power of your seniors. Don't think that you're invincible just because you won against some garbage." Leah Kane let out a cold humph. He pointed his sword at Han Shao and said haughtily. Han Shao no longer responded to Leah Kane, his face ice cold. He slightly raised the Demon Slayer edge and shot forward. His extremely fast speed created several shadow images on his path, so fast that it was difficult to tell which one was real and which one was false with naked eye. Chapter 287. Standing proudly in the sky. Even though Leah Kane was completely contemptuous, he immediately focused all of his attention when Han Shao truly made his move. He raised the broadsword in his hand with a cold snort. A silver swordlight suddenly spread out in front of him. Leah Kane had stepped into the rank of Great Sword Master many years ago. He had indulged in this realm for a long time, challenging and defeating many experts back in the Brute Merchant Alliance and gaining the title of Crazy Great Sword Master at the same same time. If he hadn't offended the lightning sacred Magus Renaldila of the Alliance, he might have never had to flee to the Lancelot Empire. The silver sword light instantly enveloped the area in front of him. Han Shao could feel an enormous sword aura hidden within the light as he flew over to Liu Kang. He immediately infused the Demon Slayer Edge with magical yuan. This indestructible weapon then burst out with black light and stabbed directly towards the silver sword light. The Demon Slayer Edge shot forward explosively with a black light and heavy killing intent. It abruptly bombarded Liu Kang's sword light. The silver sword light intertwined with the black light as several metallic pops sounded. Spots of light scattered out like stars before fading away in the air. In NGNN, Liu Kang let out a light cry and quickly retreated a step back. He looked at Han Shao with shock. Not bad, little guy, your weapon is quite strange. It actually isn't fighting aura. The black light from the Demon Slayer Edge snuffed the silver sword light into thin air. However, when the silver sword light collided with the Demon Slayer Edge, a huge force flooded into Han Shao's arm through the weapon, numbing his arm a little. Han Shao didn't rush to make a next move. His face cold as he stared fixedly at Liu Kang, he focused his mind to the peak. After this exchange, he knew that Liu Kang was indeed much more powerful than the great swordmaster he killed last time. They were both swordmasters, but Liu Kang had swelled in this rank for many years. His strength was truly extraordinary. This Brian has some power indeed. Amiz looked at Candide in surprise and exclaimed softly on the platform opposite of the garden house. Candide's eyes shone brightly, his face full of interest as he replied while looking at Han Shao, this is my first time seeing him fight as well. Although he has no fighting aura, he could unexpectedly break through the swordlight that Liu Kang had gathered from his fighting aura. It looks like his body is hiding a lot of secrets. The nobles around exclaimed incredulously non-stop upon seeing Han Shao shatter Liu Kang's swordlight with his stroke. Amongst them, Lawrence and Phoebe were visibly joyous. This boy really isn't bad. He saved us once last time at Evie's house. It can be considered that we owe him a favor. I hope that he won't be harmed by Liu Kang. Old Mr. Han laughed and said to Emily next to him as he looked at Han Shao, it seems this Brian may just win. Emily replied with a chuckle. She knew in her heart that Han Shao's strength wasn't just that simple. Based on the fact that he could fly through the air, that alone was a huge advantage, as it wasn't something Liu Kang could do. Ha ha, hopefully so. Old Han laughed heartily. As everyone discussed noisily, Liu Kang snorted coldly, you do have some strength, but it's a pity that you shouldn't have challenged me. Liu Kang raised his broadsword after his words and stepped toward Han Shao. His speed wasn't fast and each step was heavy. The two scars on his neck looked ferocious as they crossed each other, his pupils filled with a mad fighting desire. Liu Kang's momentum was stronger with each step, the broadsword in his hand emitting a dazzling silver halo beneath the sunlight. The silver fighting aura finally converged with the broadsword into a brilliantly beautiful rainbow that shot toward Han Shao from a dozen meters away. The speed of this silver rainbow was lightning fast. It whizzed right to Han Shao's face as if having leapt over the distance of a dozen meters. This attack contained such an enormous force that several watching nobles around could also felt it clearly. Han Shao just stood there like he'd been stunned by the extremely fast attack of the silver rainbow. He seemed to have not reacted yet. Everyone stared dumbly as the silver rainbow cut down on his body. It looked like he didn't know how to dodge. Quickly run. Many onlookers were worried for Han Shao. They all screamed out to warn him. Unfortunately, the speed of their voice couldn't match the attacking speed of that silver rainbow sword aura from Liu Kang. A frightening sound boomed right out at the ground where Han Shao was just standing dumbly right after the onlookers' warnings rang out. A gully 15 meters long instantly appeared in that area. The deep gully was as if one had just sliced into a piece of tofu. The silver fighting aura wreathed around the gully and didn't disperse. The enormous destructive force of this strength assaulted the two walls of the deep gully, creating loud rumbling sounds. When the terrifying sounds had stopped, the already enormous gully was now even bigger. All of the weeds within the fighting aura's area of effect had all turned into green dust. What a terrifying attack! The poor challenger must be done for. He was still too young after all. It's inevitable he'd be vulnerable against an attack from an expert who's been famous for a long time. Let's go. That young man must have died and fallen into that crack. The fun's over. I'm such a handsome a man had actually died to that ugly monster, that damned foreigner. All sorts of pessimistic comments about Han Shao resounded from the audience. They had dumbly watched on as Han Shao hadn't make any move to evade Li Hekane's sword attack. Everyone was certain that Han Shao had died and lost his life in that gully. Suddenly a loud shout resounded. "Oh my God, look to the sky!" Throwing their heads back to look at the sky, everyone saw Han Shao standing tall in the sky with a Demon Slayer edge in hand. He looked remotely down at Li Hekane. He wasn't injured the least bit. "How can this be?" Exclamation mark. Even Li Hekane couldn't help but exclaim in shock. He looked up, unable to believe his eyes. If a swordsman wanted to float in the air, they had to reach the rank of the legendary Divine Swordmaster in order to fly using fighting aura. While mages could fly by using the levitation skill, upon reaching the rank of Archmage, the casting speed of the levitation skill wasn't as fast or as smooth as Han Shao's skills. Even though Han Shao was a necromancy Archmage, he couldn't have been able to dodge that rapid attack using that slow levitation skill. That was why even Li Hekane was shocked beyond belief upon seeing Han Shao stand safe and sound in the sky. "Amiss, can you sense any magic elements on his body?" "Why can't I sense any at all?" On the high platform, Candide exclaimed with surprise as he looked directly at Han Shao standing proudly in the sky. Even an usually relaxed and calm person like Amiss was startled. He shook his head, saying, "Strange, too strange. He doesn't use any magic or fighting aura, but can actually stand in the sky so miraculously. Just what is this?" "It seems this has something to do with his unique cultivation art. This art he practices is very wondrous. If the Lancelot Empire's army also knows how to fly that quickly, then the power of our army would be multiplied." Candide exclaimed with excitement as he thought of this. "Pay close attention. We have to stop Li Hekane if he deals a killing blow, even if it violates the rules. This Brian is truly magical. He is too useful to our Lancelot Empire. We absolutely cannot let him die," Amiss said with determination, having determined to set everything aside in order to ensure Han Shao's safety. "Let's do it like that then. After this, I think His Majesty also knows what to do now." Candide agreed immediately. His gloomy eyes focused on Li Hekane. The dark elements on his body suddenly became dense as he prepared to make a move at any time without regard to his identity. A person was watching Han Shao on a lush towering old tree. He was the one whom Han Shao and Lawrence had met in the Rose Garden super rank assassin Balans. He was crouching within the foliage. His eyes were wide open as he observed Han Shao and muttering, "Truly amazing. He can actually use a skill directly to stand proudly in the sky." It seems this Brian is hiding other secrets besides his extraordinary attainment with murderous aura. "Master was right to send me here this time. Little guy, don't think you are formidable just because you are an Archmage who can fly in the sky. Get down here if you're so good." Li Hekane shouted furiously down below as he looked up at Han Shao in the sky. Even though he was a great sword master, he couldn't fly in the air. He had no choice but stare dumbly helpless whilst looking up at Han Shao in the sky. "As you wish." Han Shao let out a long laugh in the sky before diving down like a meteor. The Demon Slayer edge emitted a purple-red spell fire that 2 meters long. A thick murderous aura emanated in every direction with Han Shao as the epicenter. The surrounding onlookers all felt a wave of palpitations and involuntarily stepped a bit further away, shocked as they looked up at him shooting down from the sky. Chapter 288, Ripped Asunder. Not bad, little guy. Li Hekane could clearly sense the enormous murderous intent from his opponent. His eyes shone with excitement for the fight. Fighting aura continuously gathered on his broadsword. He didn't wait for Han Shao to land on the ground as the silver fighting aura shot directly at the latter's head like a silver rainbow. A murderous aura condensed non-stop around Han Shao's body. His pupils had become a deep red, his expression ferocious. The sinister evil aura in the form of a bloody mist rushed to swallow Li Hekane. The purple-red spell fire that was 2 meters long floated down eerily in a strange trajectory like a large beautiful feather floating with the wind. An explosive rumbling echoed the spellfire, smashing into the silver fighting aura. Bursts of brilliant fireworks bloomed in the air as the two lights intertwined with each other. Deep red lights, silver aura and purple lights shimmered endlessly. Metallic collisions resounded non-stop from the mystically beautiful fireworks. Li Hekane was standing on the ground, his two legs legs forced knee-deep into the ground due to the powerful pressure from the explosion above. The violent reactions kept ringing in his ears. An alternating force of two polar opposite powers, hot and cold, shrouded his brain. The strange force was like a ghost slipping through his pores before violently flooding his internal organs. Leah Kane first shivered all over from the cold, then suddenly felt as if his body was frozen solid. A blazing hot current then burst through his body like a volcano. The two hot and cold airs intermingled within, giving Leah Kane an extremely surreal and painful feeling. Leah Kane looked like a madman as he wailed crazily to the sky. He ripped apart the clothes on his upper body with one hand, revealing his strong muscles. Streams of silver light could be seen clearly as they wiggled around his bare upper body. Purple and red glints reflected from within. It looked extremely odd. "I'm going to tear you apart," Leah Kane roared. The broadsword in his hand had gathered every fiber of silver light. He looked to Han Shao, who happened to be standing indifferently in the air. The silver halo on the broadsword in Leah Kane's hand suddenly shrank. The silver light faded away and the glossy broadsword didn't reflect a single gleam beneath the sunlight. This appeared extremely weird. Han Shao understood that Leah Kane's strength was indeed extraordinary after exchanging blows with him. He hadn't gained any advantage even after utilizing his full force of the Bloodlust realm. If it weren't for the mystical glacial spell fire with the property of both fire and ice invading his body, Leah Kane wouldn't have ended up so miserable after the attack either. Han Shao dived downwards while fiercely pouring magical yuan into the demon slayer edge despite his numb hands. Precisely at the moment when he'd focused his power and was waiting for a chance to deal a fatal blow, Han Shao suddenly discovered that the light from Leah Kane's broadsword had suddenly vanished. Han Shao's instincts detected a grave danger. His extraordinary senses once again were at play. Han Shao immediately contacted the three yin demons. Just as the broadsword in Leah Kane's hand trembled, Han Shao abruptly split into 4 clones and landed in 4 directions. The previously dull broadsword suddenly burst out with glaring lights at the same moment. Icy alls as sharp as needles shot towards the sky in a drizzle covering an area of about 5 meters. This attack had a terrifying penetration ability in addition to its intensity. It pierced through the sky before disappearing in the blink of an eye. A yin demon had transformed into a clone to replace Han Shao in the place he'd just been standing. As the icy alls pierced through that area, the invisible yin demon was also penetrated by a strange force. The violent fighting aura had coalesced into tiny shapes, unexpectedly possessing a particularly destructive force on the yin demon. The yin demon was pierced through like a beehive, its presence fading to the extreme. What a terrifying attack! Han Shao couldn't stop feeling horrified after landing. Leah Kane was indeed terrifying. He could gather his fighting aura into such a small and intense form. When the fighting aura was condensed into thousands of icy alls, the destructive force hidden in those alls actually increased by 100 times. Even an intangible existence like the yin demon had suffered injuries from this attack. Han Shao believed that if he hadn't reacted fast enough and swapped his body out, he definitely would have become a mangled mess. While Han Shao was shocked at Leah Kane's attack, Leah Kane, the attacker himself, felt even more incredulous. He could never expected Han Shao to evade his strike. Han Shao's 4 clones and landed on the flat ground. The 3 figures transformed from the yin demons slowly faded like a reflection on a lake being hit with a stone. The shadows twisted and swayed for a bit before disappearing, leaving only one Han Shao behind Leah Kane. Too powerful. Whoa, what was that just now? A rain of swords? So stunning. I didn't think this ugly fellow could have produced such a beautiful attack. Brian was the formidable one here. If I didn't see wrong, there was 4 Brians just now. My gosh, truly miraculous. You didn't see wrong. I also saw 4 Brians. What skill is this? It's really too powerful. The whole audience burst into a hubbub after a moment of silence. All of the watching nobles along with their followers were discussing with surprise. Their faces was full of shock and excitement after seeing the astounding performance earlier. What's going on? Candid's expression was that of disbelief as well on the high platform. He exclaimed with incredulity while looking at the distant Leah Kane and Han Shao. That Leah Kane is truly terrifying. According to the intelligence of Dark Mantle, he'd always used that rainbow of a silver sword aura to gain the advantage before defeating his opponents in his fights during recent years. It seems his trademark move is the attack he'd just deployed, the dense drizzle of ice needles. I could feel the destructive force within. I really didn't expect the screwed brainless looking Liu Kang to hide such a sinister and meticulous skill. Truly a terrifying person. Sighing in astonishment, Miz stopped for a bit and continued to exclaim in excitement, Candide, your Brian is even more magical. There's almost no way to avoid that attack, yet he used such a miraculous skill to instantly split into four and escape the area of attack. What an incredible boy. Of course, otherwise why would I spend so much effort on him? Exclamation mark. Candide was secretly taken aback but still answered smugly after hearing his words. The surrounding was filled with a mix of endless discussion and loud noises. Given this level of excitement from the audience, it was likely that the discussion would only stop when the two fighters resumed their battle. Liu Kang and Han Shuo now had some certain understanding of their opponent's strength after such an intense exchange. The originally confident Han Shuo had to tread with more caution, and the dismissive Liu Kang had to put aside his arrogance and treat Han Shuo as his most powerful opponent. Thus far, the two were standing around 15 meters away from each other at the moment. Liu Kang once again stood on the ground, panting lightly as he glared at Han Shuo. The two men just stood there staring at each other without a word. After a span of 10 breaths, Han Shuo's lips curled into a grin. Liu Kang, you're going to be dead today without a doubt. Your attack just now was truly very powerful. Unfortunately, it needs a long time to gather and moreover exhausts a great deal of fighting, or doesn't it? Liu Kang instantly paled in shock as Han Shuo's words sounded. It seemed Han Shuo had hit upon the weak point of this skill. Han Shuo shot towards Liu Kang like a lightning bolt at this precise moment. The Demon Slayer Edge was flying one step ahead like a snake baring its fangs and biting down on its prey. As Liu Kang used his broadsword to block, the Demon Slayer Edge would circle around to attack from another side. Han Shuo also rushed towards Liu Kang but didn't attack in the manner of the Demon Slayer Edge. Instead, he flew up in the air and leisurely took out the white bone staff, his mouth starting to chant some incantation. When the canopy of necromancy blotted out the sunlight, two evil knights leading a troop of dark creatures appeared one by one on the lawn and tightly surrounded Liu Kang. 2 evil knights, 5 hate warriors, 20 zombies, 70 skeletal warriors, and 2 teams of 30 gargoyles each had appeared. Liu Kang was entangled by the Demon Slayer Edge and could only stare dumbly at the materializing dark creatures that were encircling him. Liu Kang is done for, Amiz said gracefully before looking at Candide with a smile and added, let's go, we will go together to meet His Majesty. His Majesty will definitely make the right decision with Brian's value. Hee, that boy Lawrence's luck isn't bad. Alright, we should grow closer to him. That's right, Candide nodded before drifting away with Amiz towards the direction of the Imperial Palace. The two had yet to completely clear the area when Liu Kang's tragic roars echoed non-stop throughout the entire garden house area. Lurking underground, the Earth Elite zombie had grabbed on Liu Kang's ankles. The humble little skeleton had then caused great injuries to Liu Kang with a surreptitious ambush. The 2 evil knights trampled him to death afterwards. In the end, over 100 dark creatures rushed in and ripped him apart. There wasn't a single piece of bone left behind. Chapter 289, a Medal of Merit. Liu Kang's fate had been sealed when more than 100 dark creatures appeared. After all, a great deal of his fighting aura had been exhausted after exchanging blows with Han Shuo. Particularly in that last attack, Liu Kang had consumed a massive amount of fighting aura to produce the ice needles. Han Shuo had the mental strength of a Grand Magus despite not being able to release the necromancy spells of this level. Such a huge mental force was enough for him to summon a large number of dark creatures. Amongst these creatures were the remarkably powerful little skeleton, the Earth Elite zombie, and the Wood Elite zombie. The 3 bizarre dark creatures lurked within the necromancy Grand Army and would randomly release attacks that caught an average person off guard, rendering them unable to defend themselves. Liu Kang had to deal with the Demon Slayer Edge's all-pervasive attacks while facing 2 evil knights, creatures famous for their tyrannical strength. That obviously took most of his attention. The 3 bizarre creatures took the opportunity to utilize their unique attacks to their heart's content. This strategy was naturally effective as Liu Kang was instantly heavily injured by the little skeleton's sneak attacks. It was a matter of course for him to be trampled to death by the evil knights. The 100-strong dark creatures instantly drowned Liu Kang and blocked the vision of the surrounding nobles as well as that of their entourages. These people couldn't see what was happening at all. They could only hear the shrill tragic roars from Liu Kang. Han Shuo was standing grandly in the sky as Liu Kang's tragic screaming started to subside. He unhurriedly chanted an incantation, sending his summoned dark creatures back to the other dimension. Apart from the traces of blood scattered on the grass, there was nothing, not even a piece of bone left on the lawn to indicate these creatures had been present. Everyone understood that Liu Kang was finished. He must have been ripped apart and eaten cleanly by those dark creatures. The big still wet patches of blood on the lawn were proof of this truth. Done, just like that. Liu Kang is dead. I mean, he should be dead. How can this be? He was finished so quickly! Exclamation mark. The onlookers around all sent horrified looks at Han Shao standing proudly in midair. They then looked back down at the bloodstains on the lawn and understood that the battle was over. Han Shao had successfully killed the crazy great sword master Liu Kang of the Brute Merchant Alliance. He'd won fair and square and had shown his unique skills from beginning to end of the battle. He'd used the necromancer's most brilliant, common and effective tactic of numbers in the end to directly stomp on the great sword master. No matter from what perspective one approached this battle, this match could be regarded as a classic one for the books. Liu Kang's tense reign of Isols and Han Shao's unique skill in splitting up into 4 copies were all deeply engraved into everyone's memory. A hubbub of discussions rose and fell. Han Shao had been standing proudly in the sky when he suddenly let out a resounding shout and left at blinding speed. His elegant dashing figure gradually turned into a black spot until the crowd could no longer see a trace of him. It weren't just the audience inside the garden house who knew of Han Shao's grand victory. The civilians on the streets outside all deduced the result when they saw Han Shao fly away in the air. Everyone cheered and yelled. The atmosphere as joyous as a holiday. First, Prince Charles' face was terrifyingly gloomy. He never expected Liu Kang to lose, no matter how much he speculated about the match. To him this was simply unreal. A face that looked even more embarrassed than Charles belonged to Merchant Cameron. He stood right behind Charles with a bleak expression on an ashen complexion. His eyes glazed over as he stared into space. He simply didn't know what to do now. As the operator behind the scenes, Cameron had to draw out all of his capital for this bet. Like everyone else, he already had to pay an arm and leg for just Phoebe's Boost Merchant Guild alone. Phoebe was the complete opposite of him. Her usually cold face was currently full of uncontrollable excitement, her cherry lips muttering non-stop, "I'm rich, I'm rich. Hey Brian, ah Brian, you really didn't let me down." Lawrence had never felt happier than he was today as he looked at Charles' gloomy face. He laughed loudly and left with Phoebe walking arrogantly past Charles and Cameron. "Let's go, father-in-law." Although Emily soon knew of this result, she still felt an infinite glory as Han Shao's secret woman when she saw his godly strength on display. The corner of her lips slightly turned up in a delightful smile as she turned to speak to old Mr. Han. Incredible little guy, hey." Old Mr. Han showered non-stop praises, then left the garden house with Emily. When the nobles exited the garden house, the details of Han Shao's grand victory over Liu Kang quickly spread. At this moment the entire Awesome City was discussing Han Shao. Many noble young ladies secretly regarded him as the target of their admiration and adoration. Countless aristocrats wanted to recruit Han Shao. Awesome City, the Imperial Palace. The two who'd left early, Amiz and Candide, were in a chamber with the king of the Lancelot Empire. They were softly narrating the details of the battle. King Utterd suddenly spoke loudly in joy after a while. "Good, very well done. I heard just yesterday that he'd found the blueprint, and today he's already killed Liu Kang of the Brute Merchant Alliance. This boy is truly worthy of enormous investment. Not only that, your majesty, Brian also possesses an unique art. Not only can he become a top-notch expert, his martial art can create an immeasurable impact to our empire if widely promoted." Amiz waited until Utterd happily finished his speech before adding cautiously. As these words fell, Utterd asked in surprise, "What is this about?" "It's like this." Gloomy Candide, one of the 3 heavyweights, carefully explained to Utterd as he went over the details of how Han Shao defeated Liu Kang. Then he added, "Your majesty, Brian has a clean background and is wholeheartedly loyal to the empire. He's worth it no matter the cost." Utterd naturally had extraordinary insight since he'd been able to become king of Lancelot. His eyes sparkled when he heard Candide talk about the miracles about Han Shao. He was silent for a while before issuing an order. "Candide, I intend to bestow him the title of Count, award him with a mansion in the city's north end along with 10,000 gold coins. promote him directly from Dark Moon to Dark Sun Envoy with the right to access all Dark Mental Intelligence. In addition, you will personally lead Brian and let him have his pick of territory. Don't ask him about his martial arts for the time being. We first need to show him our sincerity. Your Majesty is wise. I think Brian will be very grateful. Candide flattered. Candide, this Brian was personally mentored by you. Your credit is great. I now bestow you with a medal of bravery. Consider this your reward. Uttered said to Candide with a smile. Many thanks to your Majesty. Your subject is very grateful. Candide was overjoyed as he knelt down to receive the honor. The Empire's Medal of Bravery carried a special meaning. Only those with outstanding contributions to the Empire could be awarded this medal. Having this Medal of Bravery meant that Candide could enjoy the special privileges of the Empire in his lifetime. Even if the current king passed away, the next inheritor of the throne could never use brute force against the Imperial heroes who possessed a Medal of Bravery. Moreover, this medal was hereditary. Even when Candide died, his direct descendants could still enjoy the special privilege. Although the Medal of Bravery carried no tangible benefits, this little medal was like a card of privilege that gave an identity even much superior than an average noble title. Therefore Candide was overjoyed upon hearing Uttered bestow him a Medal of Bravery. He secretly thought that this Brian was indeed his lucky star. Candide, congratulations. Amiz elegantly turned to offer Candide his congratulations. Many thanks. Candide smiled in response. His face couldn't conceal his joy. Alright, this is a reward you deserve because you've discovered a person who can become a sacred sword master and sacred magus for the Empire. I hope you will provide Brian with more guidance and make even more contributions for the Empire. Uttered smiled as he looked at Candide and spoke slowly. Rest assured, your Majesty, I will help Brian adapt to aristocratic life as soon as possible. This boy is highly intelligent. He will become a pillar of the Empire sooner or later. Candide was so pleased after he received the Medal of Bravery that he immediately made these promises. Nodding his head, Uttered said smilingly, good. You can all leave now. I will warn the Church of Light and won't allow them to act wildly in our Lancelot Empire. I believe the title of Count is just the beginning for this boy. I hope he won't disappoint me. Candide and Amiz glanced at each other. They didn't say anything else and bowed respectfully. They then left through the secret tunnel and returned to the Dark Mando headquarters within Mount Ortiz behind the Imperial Palace. After arriving, Candide started to prepare for Han Shuo's ennoblement matters. Chapter 290. First function of the Bone Staff. Han Shuo's name spread all throughout Osun City in just a short few days. Thanks to his identity as an archmage necromancer and his deed of killing Liu Kang, this proved his strength. Uttered used the fact that Han Shuo had recovered the blueprint to bestow upon him the title of Count. Uttered also awarded him a gorgeous mansion in the northern part of the city, which included guards, maids, servants, and all that one could possibly want. The mansion had more than 100 rooms of various sizes. Even though Han Shuo had yet to officially receive the title of Count, this didn't stop others from admiring and wanting to make friends with him. The gorgeous mansion already belonged to him from the moment he had left the garden house. Over the next couple of days, dignitaries from various noble houses came by to pay their respects to him. Unfortunately, the steward kept saying that the owner had yet to move in. Those who had come to visit could only leave their gifts behind. Although he was currently the center of attention, Han Shuo himself actually didn't know about the situation going on outside. He flew alone to the mountain behind the Babylon Academy of Magic and Force after leaving the garden house. There he opened up the transportation matrix and returned to the cemetery of death. Han Shuo had reaped many benefits from his battle with Liu Kang. He slowly digested the experience from this battle as he gradually recovered his magical yuan and mental strength. Han Shuo's body reached its peak condition by the time evening came. He immersed himself in the bloodlust realm, his deep red pupils furiously circulating with magical yuan. After a few days passed like this, Han Shuo's deep red eyes gradually returned to normal. He heaved a soft sigh. Just one more step. It's a pity that this step seems to be an unbreakable bottleneck. I really don't know what's going on. Han Shuo could faintly sense that he'd soon break out of the bloodlust realm. However, He couldn't bridge the gap no matter how much effort he put in. Breakthroughs in magical cultivation required opportunities and comprehension. Perhaps the day that Han Shao became spontaneously enlightened, he would directly break through into the next realm. He could instantly succeed once he firmly grasped the step. Blind stubborn practice wasn't a good idea. When Han Shao felt that he could no longer advance by relying on arduous training, he immediately stopped practicing demonic magic. He took out the tricolored bone staff after some thought. At this point Han Shao was certain that this bone staff was the result of the Eye of Darkness transforming as the top of the staff, and the Eye of Darkness gave off the same feeling. When Han Shao focused his mental force into the bone staff, he could use it to successfully open the cemetery of death. This bone staff was much more intricate and ancient compared to the white bone staff that Han Shao had taken from the Calamity Church. The three different skulls seemed to contain three different kinds of power. Han Shao could subtly feel this every time he grasped the bone staff. The bone staff was without a doubt a treasure that belonged to the cemetery of death. Shaking the staff a little, Han Shao muttered, "Let's try out this bone staff." Souls of the fallen soldiers, heed the Dark Herald's call and reveal your existence. Han Shao waved the bone staff and chanted an elementary skeleton summoning incantation. The tricolored skulls on the bone staff suddenly shone brightly upon being infused with his mental force. A row of 16 skeletal warriors appeared out of thin air afterwards. Han Shao was momentarily dazed, shocked even as he looked at the 16 skeletal warriors. Mental strength at the Grand Magus level would only result in 8 skeletal warriors being summoned when using the white bone staff. But when he cast the spell using this bone staff, he'd unexpectedly reached the highest level of the skeleton summoning spell. Level 5. The number of summoned dark creatures had straight up doubled. "This is too amazing!" Han Shao exclaimed involuntarily. He started chanting the incantation to summon evil knights. When he had finished chanting, 2 evil knights appeared on the ground. Twice the results. Han Shao was utterly delighted. He then tried summoning the hate warriors and zombie warriors and achieved the same results. The number of summoned creatures had doubled when he used this bone staff whilst chanting the incantations. After a successful experiment, Han Shao couldn't help but continue and try incantations for Canopy of Necromancy and Acid Bog. He discovered that the area of effect for both spells were now twice as wide. Good stuff. This is really good stuff. Han Shao caressed the bone staff, never wanting to let go of it. He hadn't expected this bone staff to be so magical. It had doubled the potential of the spells and increased his power by another level. The bone staff was designed in an odd fashion and seemed quite ancient. In addition to doubling the power of necromancy magic, Han Shao subtly felt that this staff hid several other secrets within it as well. It was a pity that he had no other methods to test it besides using it to release necromancy magic. A white light flashed in the transportation matrix in the cemetery of death. Emily's figure appeared within the light. She opened her mouth to speak as soon as she saw Han Shao. "I knew you'd be here." The transportation matrix leading to this place was stationed in a corner of the graveyard. Han Shao was accustomed to arriving at the cemetery of death by using the hidden location in the mountains behind the Babylon Academy of Magic and Force. Only Emily knew this habit of his. When she went there and saw the magic sticks in the corner of the grave, she immediately knew that Han Shao must have headed to the cemetery of death. "Oh, what brings you here?" Han Shao smiled upon seeing Emily appear and pulled her into his embrace. "Hurry and return to Asen City. His Majesty the King has prepared to bestow upon you the title of Count. Everything is ready and waiting for you to return to Asen City." "Who knew that you'd disappear for a few days? Even the Dark Mantle couldn't find a single trace of you." "Master Candide is very anxious, so he asked me to help him find a way to contact you. I guessed that you were at the cemetery of death, and it seems that I wasn't wrong." Emily rolled her eyes at Han Shao in explanation. "So that's the case," Han Shao replied, then asked with a strange chuckle, "So His Majesty intends to grant me the title of Count?" "Yes, in addition to the title he's also bequeathing upon you a mansion in the northern part of the city and 10,000 gold coins. Candide seems to have prepared everything for you already and it only awaits you to take it." Emily said, "Fantastic. I didn't think that giving Leah Kane a beating could bring such great benefits." Hey, it's seems that noble titles really aren't so hard to get, Han Shao said with a smile before activating the transportation matrix and returning to the Awesome City with Emily. Mound. Or does the Dark Mantle headquarters? Stinking brat, why don't you disappear for 10 more days, huh? Candide scolded with a dark face upon seeing Han Shao appear. I was slightly injured after my fight with Lia Kane, so I had no choice but to recover first, so I returned a bit later. Han Shao lied and smiled at Candide and congratulated his mentor. Congratulations, Master Candide, I heard that His Majesty the King bequeathed upon you the Medal of Bravery 2 days ago. Congrats, congrats. Candide's gloomy face finally revealed a hint of a smile when Han Shao mentioned this, but he quickly recovered and said with a stern expression, all right, let's not talk about this anymore. Give me your badge. His Majesty has ordered me to promote you to a rank 1 Dark Sun Envoy. Little brat, your luck is truly too good. Let's go, come with me to meet His Majesty. His Majesty will bestow upon you a noble title and grant you a territory, Candide said before leading Han Shao through the secret transportation matrix in the Dark Mantle headquarters that led directly to the Imperial Palace. Not long after King Uhtred summoned the various nobles of Awesome City to gather in the middle of the spacious Lancelot Imperial Palace. He granted Han Shao an audience and read the proclamation to begin the ceremony. Brian aided the Lancelot Empire many times in defending against foreign enemies. I bestow upon you the title of Count, a mansion in the north of the city, and 10,000 gold coins. I hope you will continue to make great contributions to the Empire. My thanks to your Majesty. Candide had reminded Han Shao of what to do and say earlier, so Han Shao sincerely voiced his gratitude at this moment. Bretel City in the furthest east shall be your territory. Bretel City is vast but extremely chaotic. I hope it will soon be restored to order under your leadership. Uhtred raised his voice to speak loudly. Several nobles revealed surprised expressions when they heard the territory would be Bretel City. It seemed that this city was very famous. Thank you, Your Majesty. I will definitely take good care of Bretel City and help restore the city to the order that it should possess in the Empire. Han Shao respectfully replied. Good. This shall be it for today. You are all dismissed. Uhtred glanced at Han Shao several times over before waving his arm to signify the end of the meeting. Everybody left one by one.